It's fading in the storm, trying to hold on to what was warm. We ain't changed, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, let me raise them high. We ain't changed, we just won't lie. They moved the lines, kept pushing the frame, redefining truth and changing names. They say progress like it's a holy word, but nobody's listening, nobody's heard. We stayed steady while they rewrote the song. Now they call us out for holding on. Well, we ain't changed, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we just won't lie. Every time you push, something breaks. Every room you bend, another heart aches. But there's still faith under all that noise. Still fire burning in a million quiet boys. We ain't changed, no, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we won't die inside.
Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign. KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real, tune in and feel. He's breaking down the noise, cutting through the lies, shining light where the shadow hides. But guests in the mix and callers on cue. He's a voice for the
honors its
many,
commitments and treats its
not the
workforce
few.
with respect.
Grab your
Not paying them
coffee,
on time.
raise that flag.
Amen to that. Of
Stand
course, we
your
agree.
ground, never
But
wait.
it wasn't just the AF.
All right, folks. Apologies. We'll get back to the normal stuff in a minute. We're coming in hot. My name's Rick Robbins, and this is my show. It's a Chat Lives Matter Day edition. But first, let's join the speaker, currently giving us a rundown of everything the Democrats are trying to do to kill us all.
The Allied Pilots Association, the Southwest Airlines Pilots Association, the leader of the Teamsters, and the New York Steamfitters Union. They're all coming out. These are the constituencies that the Democrats claim that they support, and that's why the unions came on side of the Republicans in the last election. They've had enough of this nonsense, and they've all called on Senate Democrats to end this shameful shutdown. And it is a shame. The Democrats need to
Dude,
be
start
publicly
calling it
prodded
the
by
shakedown.
millions of hardworking Americans.
Let's
to
make
just
let's
simply
it
do the most
resonate with the
basic
people. 'Cause That's
functions
it is.
of
It's a
their
damn
job.
shakedown. It's not a
A rational
shutdown.
person would read the pleas of the federal workers and conclude that it is time to end the charade and turn the lights back on. But the Democrats are not rational right now, and they've deliberately ignored the plight of all these federal workers around the country. People are going to remember this, and they should. I want to quote to you a couple of senators over there on the Democrat side. Listen to this Senator Mark Warner, the senior senator from Virginia, and this is noteworthy because Virginia is the state with the largest number of federal employees. He claims that federal workers want him to vote against reopening the government. He literally said, quote, "I think they want us to fight this." Fight what, Mark? What are you talking about? We have a clean CR. This is not a partisan dispute. It's ridiculous. Senator Tim Kaine is the junior senator from the same state of Virginia with the largest number of federal employees, and he said, quote, "I work very closely with them, and the AFGE would not want us to cut a deal." What the heck are you talking about, Senator? There is no deal here. We're not talking about a deal. We're talking about a clean CR that all of you voted for even as recently as this year. And here's my favorite one. This is the best quote. When asked about the AFGE statement from the big union, Senator Jeanine Shaheen said, quote, "I had a conversation with the president of AFGE earlier, right after the shutdown, and that was their position then." So let me just translate for you. Senator Shaheen spoke with the head of the largest federal employee labor union. The president of that union explained to her the harmful effects of a shutdown, and then Senator Shaheen went out and voted to close the government anyway. Continued to do that more than a dozen additional times. Senate Democrats knew the pain this would cause. They knew about the missed paychecks. They knew the uncertainty of making rent for so many people. They knew about the missed meals. They knew about delayed flights. They knew that our nuclear arsenal and our national defense would be negatively affected by this, and they did not care. They shut the government down anyway to appease the far-left voices of their base. And the Democrats have some soul-searching to do. Are they going to continue to do that? Are they going to run from the far left and do their bidding, or are they going to do right by millions of federal workers?
Democrats and souls in the same sentence.
Continue to show up to work daily without pay. Are they going to do right and reopen the government so that those people are taken care of instead of the Marxist far-left base in their party That is the question. And we pray that Senate Democrats come to their senses before the situation becomes too dire. On Saturday, this gets very real. SNAP benefits will stop flowing to all those who need it. You're talking about tens of millions of Americans at risk of going hungry if the Senate Democrats can continue this gambit. Instead of taking a simple vote to fund the government, which Senate Democrats have now had more than a dozen opportunities to do, Democrat attorneys general are suing the federal government to try to compel SNAP benefits to flow despite the government being closed and despite the fact that there is no money to do that. Congress hasn't authorized that. The contingency fund for that was something they batted down when the Democrats decided to vote against the CR and shut the government. For Democrats, there's a much easier option on the table. Just go do your job and fully fund all these programs and all these categories of people by voting for the CR. That's it. You don't have to do anything for Republicans. Just do your job for your constituents. Until Democrats recognize the pain that's gone on for so long, Republicans will be in their districts helping their constituents clean up the mess that Democrats are making and help them make ends meet and help them find the assistance, the food assistance, and all these other things that they're going to have to rely upon. And joining us this morning to discuss the Democrats' shutdown impacts on our national defense and on foreign affairs is our great chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and a decorated veteran of the U.S. Army, our good friend, Chairman Brian Mast. Brian?
Thank you, Speaker. I think everything going on, it really puts an exclamation point on the fact that we have the greatest anywhere across the globe. I do want to start just by saying thank you to all of our workers. We have workers whose lives are being very literally affected, and they're still coming to work every day. Those are really big, amazing people. That's our American workforce. So I just want to start by saying thank you to them, all of our TSA workers, all of our air traffic controllers, our ICE, our CBP, our State Department people that I deal with, and to put a point, maybe moving to State Department, because that's what I deal with the most, about the very serious stakes of what is going on, not just with people's lives and them not being able to pay their bills, but with what's going on across the globe. To juxtapose these positions, we have President Trump in Asia right now, very literally trying to make sure that the United States of America is not cut off from rare earth minerals or other things, which is what China is literally trying to do. That's why there was a threat of another 100% tariff, because China was sending around letters saying, all you neighboring countries don't sell to America. So the president is abroad trying to protect our homeland. And we have Democrats here at home doing everything that they can to weaken our homeland. That's a difference of values. And the stakes of those values is the future of the greatest country on the face of this earth. We should pray that our adversaries would be stupid enough to say they're going to prioritize funding feminism in Africa over the food stamps of their own people. They're not that stupid, but apparently Hakeem Jeffries is, and that's a real problem for all of us here. I was on the phone with an ambassador this morning. I'm not going to say where, but we have requests for people to leave embassies abroad because of very real threats that are going on. The people in that embassy are right now trying to figure out if they have cash funding to get fuel for vehicles or to have diesel to put in their generators because they don't have reliable electricity in the places that they're in. Those are the real world consequences. While they're also worrying about their paycheck isn't coming in, can their family back home buy groceries, pay their bill for student loans, pay for the fuel to get their kids to school, or the tuition at their children's school, or all the other things that they have to worry about while they're worrying about can they even get out of country. So those are the difference of values. I guess I would close it by saying this. We need 5 Democrat senators to pull their heads out of their asses and go work for the United States of America.
Thank you, Chairman Mast. Thank you for your service to our country and for keeping the focus where it needs to be on making sure America stays strong in the midst of turbulent times. And, you know, what's so sad about this shutdown is that we don't need to be in these turbulent times. It was a self-imposed wound that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer have imposed on the country. And if you look over this last month of the shutdown, you've seen Democrats literally playing a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde game with the American people. On one hand, they'll try to say, it's not us, it's the Republicans. Gee whiz, as the speaker talked about, oh, they control the House, Senate, and White House, when they know that they are the ones that are shutting the government down. And then on the other hand, Mr. Jekyll's side, they're saying that they know that they're causing pain on the American people. They admit that there is suffering, but they're doing it for leverage. So you can't have it both ways, Chuck Schumer. You can't wake up one day and say you're going to try to blame it on the Republicans, and then on the next day, you're trying to say that, gee whiz, we know that we're causing these problems. They're admitting they're causing suffering on people, but they're doing it for leverage. And they can't even explain what that leverage is, because they just need to show their radical base that they're having a fight with Donald Trump. It's all it's been about from the beginning. You really want to know who's calling the shots in the Democrat Party. You saw it on the stage this past weekend. Bernie and AOC on the stage with the new leader of the Democrat Party, Mondami. Maybe Chuck Schumer's waiting for Mondami to let him know when he can open the government back up again. But families can't wait, because the real suffering is going to begin. It's already been happening, but it really hits home this weekend when SNAP benefits run out, and they know that. But I'm going to go through some of the lies, the myths, the things that they say when they know better. Chuck Schumer just yesterday said, quote, Republicans are in charge of the White House, the Senate, and the House, but they're refusing to do their job. Now, Chuck Schumer's been in Congress since the 1980s. And he knows that every day he's been there, there's been a requirement that you need not 51, not a majority like we need in the House. He was in the House where you did need a majority, and then he went over to the Senate where it's always been a requirement that you need a supermajority. And in fact, when they changed the rules, it's not a standard or a custom, it's an actual Senate rule that you need 60 votes. The rule used to be higher. And in 1975, many of you might have thought Chuck Schumer voted for that rule. He came in just a few years after. In 1975 is when they lowered the threshold to 60 votes. It used to actually be a higher standard in the rules. And so every day Chuck Schumer's been in Congress, it always took more than a simple majority, in fact, 60 votes to pass these kinds of bills through the Senate. And he knows that. So you'd ask him, why is he trying to lie and mislead the American people? When he makes a statement like that, he knows he's trying to mislead the American people. And yet on other days, he does admit he knows he's causing suffering, but he's doing it for leverage. And so this game back and forth is what the American people are sick and tired of. Hakeem Jeffries, quote, we didn't view the current bill as anything other than a partisan Republican spending bill. He knows good and well that it was a clean CR. If Democrats still to this day don't know the difference between a clean CR and partisan bills, did they stop reading the bills? Because they used to vote for these bills. Just since 2017, go look at the facts. Speaker likes talking about the facts. Facts are important here. Since 2017, 30 different CRs, 30 times CRs have moved to keep the government open. And do you know, 29 of the previous times Chuck Schumer's voted yes. 29. This 30th time is the only time Chuck Schumer has voted no. And of course you'd say, well, then what's changed if he's voted? 29 out of 29 times before this, he voted for clean CRs. What's changed? This is a clean CR. What's changed is the Democrat Party has changed. Mondami is now running the party. That party has changed. But the American people still have the same needs. The American people, again, the clean CR doesn't solve our differences. We still have big differences that we need to go negotiate, but let's just do it while the lights are on without the American people being held hostage. And of course, the final myth that's been out there for the beginning of this whole shutdown that we've debunked many times, that it's, quote, a total effing lie, that was Chuck Schumer's word, I think he actually used the word itself, that Democrats support free taxpayer-funded health care for illegals. That was Schumer saying that. And then, of course, when you read his alternative bill, his list of hostage demands, the $1.5 trillion spending bill, it includes in it a provision that repeals the verification we put in that says illegals can't get free health care. And CBO, not us, CBO said that would cost $200 billion in taxpayer health care benefits going to illegals. They know that. Of course they know it. And so why would they want to try to mislead the American people by over and over again making those statements? So here you can see it. Time and time again, the SNAP benefits comment the speaker talked about. They were warned in early October that 42 million people could be at risk in just weeks of losing their SNAP benefits if they didn't open the government. They knew that, and they want to play this game of chicken, this Jekyll and Hyde, one day trying to blame everybody but themselves, and then the other day taking ownership and admitting they're causing suffering, but they want to do it for leverage. You can't have it both ways. And more importantly, the American people are feeling the suffering. And this weekend, that suffering gets worse. And we have voted over and over again to prevent the suffering. It's not necessary. It shouldn't happen. And there's a way to avoid it. All they need to do is today, just 5 Senate Democrats need to get courage and say, we're not going to take our orders from Mondami or whoever else it is that are calling the shots over there. We're going to do the right thing and open this government back up so we can get into that negotiation over all of our differences, which are many, but just don't hold the American people hostage while that goes on. That'll bring up our whip. Tom Emmer.
The Democrats have no leader, no vision, no message. And nothing proves it more than the chaos they have caused with their needless government shutdown. We are now 29 days into this mess, and the Democrats have contradicted themselves every turn with no exit strategy in sight. They've tried to make their shutdown fight about health care, while simultaneously demanding that we cut $50 billion in rural health care and give taxpayer-funded health care to illegal aliens. Not to mention the Americans who are suffering right now because critical health care services have been put on pause due to the Democrats' shutdown charade. On the issue of SNAP, Democrats are bending over backward to oppose Trump, using taxpayer dollars to fund frivolous lawsuits. Meanwhile, they are the ones causing people to lose their SNAP benefits by refusing to reopen the government. Remember, all of this could have been solved in a matter of 5 minutes by 5 Senate Democrats if they would do the reasonable and right thing by supporting our clean CR. The same CR that they supported just 6 months ago, and as we've said over and over, that they had passed 13 times under the Biden administration. But instead, they'd rather run in circles, tripping over their own feet in the process and hanging their constituents out to dry. Why? In order to attain political leverage and score points with the radical Mamdani and Omar Fata, supporting that, by the way, for those of you that don't know, is the Mamdani of the Midwest, Omar Fata, supporting that wing of their party. Take it from the party who essentially wrote the government shutdown playbook. It doesn't work. Shutdowns achieve nothing but hurt everyone. So enough with the political games. Pass our clean CR and let's reopen the government for the people that you were elected to serve.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good to see you again. Let's get one thing straight right out of the gate. House Republicans did our job. Senate Democrats didn't. It's that simple. More than 1 month ago, under the leadership of Speaker Mike Johnson, the House passed responsible legislation to keep our government, your government, open. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats voted again and again to keep it shut down. So before anyone throws around cheap insults like one Democrat member did on social media this week, and I'll just read it. Lazy Mike Johnson has made himself irrelevant and pointless. You know, I always find that funny. When you can't beat us on the issues, what do children do? They personalize it. And that's exactly what this member is doing. He can't beat us on the issues. So he wants to attack our leader, who has done a remarkable job, and personalize it. We're not in 6th grade anymore. But maybe for some people they are in 6th grade. But let's remember the facts. Republicans acted, the Democrats stalled. Mike Johnson has shown leadership, discipline, and focus. And what's lazy, I'll share with you what's lazy, is Democrats refusing to do their job and blaming everyone else for the problems in which they created. Because what Democrats are doing is wrong. And Americans, real Americans, hardworking Americans, are getting hurt. I, for one, have had it. And I don't think I'm the only one out there. On Sunday, a Democrat House member admitted to the Wall Street Journal that his party is being pushed by far-left groups. He said the quiet part out loud, everybody. He said what we've been saying forever. He said Democrats were lying to people about the reason behind the shutdown. Well, that's a shock, right? It isn't for health care. It isn't for health care, because if it was about health care, they wouldn't have stripped the $50 billion rural health care fund. I mean, come on, Democrats, get your stories straight. At least get a good story that you can spin to the American people, but you can't even keep your story straight. Listen, what the speaker said, Ronald Reagan was right. Trust the American people. And you know what? I'll say it again. When the facts aren't on your side, you have to personalize it and you have to lie. But the question right now is, at what point is the pain of the Americans going to outweigh the radical cries of their base? It wasn't when our troops almost didn't get paid. It wasn't when moms and infants were at risk of losing the food off their table. It wasn't when flights across the nation got canceled because air traffic controllers and TSA agents didn't get paid. No. When that happened, Democrats said, every day gets better for them. Really? Maybe because they're getting paid while the people who they represent are not. That's what they said. They said pain.
All right, folks, we're going to take a break. I've stayed with that for about as long as I can. We've got too much to get to. Got some local news. For those of you that are OG&E customers, you might be about to see a rate that after the break. But it is that time, ladies and gentlemen. We have a break, and I just realized the song that I usually try to play isn't loaded, so bear with me for just a moment while I fix that. All right, so it'll take me a second. Hang on, because everything's being laggy too. I think it's because it's windy. I don't think it's an internet issue. I think it's because it's so damn windy outside that my internet keeps trying to say, yeah, we're not doing this today. Yeah, welcome to Oklahoma, the state where the wind is so bad, they actually they talk about it in the state song. That should tell you pretty much anything you need. Anyway, this is to your... All right, here we go. Now we're going to take a break as long as this loads.
They shut the lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of stand tall when they tell you to kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your faith as greed. But freedom don't need permission, it just needs men who bleed. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free, it's written in red on history's page. A warning to the tyrants and the cowards of the age. They can bury us in silence, but the truth still screams. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody?
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. It is Chat Lives Matter Day here at KLR Radio. Don't forget to come back tonight as well. We have programming starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. I've been debating on whether or not I was going to do a Bible study edition or not, because I haven't been able to do Kingdom and Country for the last couple of Sundays. But I think we are going to keep that on track. I think I'm going to do just a standard Bible study edition tonight, and then save the regular stuff for Sunday. And I apologize lately. October became a very busy month for me, and I wasn't really expecting it. In between having 5 juxtapositions to put out, counting the one this Saturday when we normally would only do 2, possibly 3, and then the play that came up and everything else that was going on, it became a busy month for me. So some of the stuff, unfortunately, has fallen behind, including my writing. So I'm hoping to fix that over the next 2 days. But I try to get as many things cranked out for Twitchy as I can, because I haven't been able to write much this month. So for anybody who's been looking for my byline, I promise it is coming back. I tried a couple months ago to get back into it, and then had some stuff go sideways again, such as life. But we're going to try to get back into that. But in the meantime, I feel like we got to spend a lot of our time talking about this shutdown stuff. And the funny thing is, the longer this goes on, the more it seems like the Democrats are just starting to say the quiet part out loud. This is from Matt Vespa over at Town Hall. So we do, in fact, have another Dem saying the quiet part out loud about the Schumer shutdown, or as I call it, the Schumer shakedown. I think we have some audio video for that. So I'm going to work on getting that queued up for you guys. There's a couple of different clips I'm seeing here. So let's see where, those went. Oh, that's why it all looks weird. I have this stuff on main stage instead of where I normally put it. It's like nothing looks right. So for today, we'll just do this. It doesn't really matter. All right. All right. So here's the first clip of what looks like at least two.
Why are working families the leverage the Democrats need to get Obamacare fixed, to get the Republicans to fix Obamacare? Why is that the place you guys have to go that far?
It's the only lever we have. And frankly, it wouldn't be a lever at all if Republicans were being reasonable and doing exactly what they should be doing for the sake of their own constituents, so many of whom depend on the Affordable Care Credits.
Ooh, he got out of there really fast, didn't he? All right, so let's take a look at the next clip. It looks like there's another one here.
Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. Frankly, this is our only moment of leverage. And although a very unpleasant tool to use,
this is our only moment of leverage. Now, I would like to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that if not for the fact that they snuck through a bunch of subsidies during COVID, when a lot of us were like panicking and freaking out about whether or not we were going to lose our jobs and this, that, and the other, and everything else in between, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because they would have already figured out how exactly unaffordable the Affordable Care Act, in air quotes, is. And that's the scariest part of all of this for me. It's something that I've been telling you guys for as long as I have been doing this, because this was one of the things that started pushing me over the top and took me from being the quiet guy who kept my head down, built a company, raised a family, did all the things that society told me that I was supposed to do, until the policies of the newer president that was coming in at the time started impacting my business before he was ever even sworn in. And then they started talking about the Affordable Care Act, which, like it or not, is a framework to eventually and slowly and painfully push us into a Canadian-style healthcare system. If not for these subsidies that were passed during COVID, we would have already been having this fight. And trust me, I'm just as mad at Republicans. I'm glad they're finally finding their sack. I'm glad they finally figured out they have stones. But you know why they do? Because of the guy that's in the White House. Because if not, they would be the same, fold like a cheap suit, card-carrying, under-party, let's fundraise on it and win, and lose like the good people that we are, and come back and maybe try to fight another day, people that they have been for almost as long as I have been doing this. Donald Trump is what is inspiring them to fight. I don't necessarily always like the guy. I don't always agree with him either. But you know what? The world respects him. You can't make this up. You see it over and over and over again on the national stage. Donald Trump goes to other countries and they like him. Even if they don't like him, they respect him because he's leading from the front again. He's leading from peace through strength again. He has done so many different things that if the Democrats were not just, but that's just it. They have nothing left. Their party is imploding. Obama and Pelosi are still fighting over Kamala Harris getting the nod in 2024. There is infighting in the Democratic Party in ways that I have not seen, and yet you still have the younger, more hungry, socialist, communist Democrats that may be about to take over New York City. And I don't know how to feel about that. Because on one side, you see these people telling you exactly what they think of you. And on the other side, some of you are still willing to vote for it. And you're calling us the ones that are mindless zombies following the orange man. I don't follow Donald Trump lockstep. There are times I've called him out. There are times that I've agreed with him. But I don't follow anybody lockstep. You guys do. Almost everybody that's using these programs are people that have bought into the idea that the government's going to take care of me. I said almost. Don't look at me in that tone of voice. But it's the truth. A lot of these people that are on these programs have chosen over and over and over again to stay on them rather than to find a way to get off. And I blame the government for that too, because it shouldn't be, as soon as you make $1 over blah, 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 you don't get nothing anymore. No, that's just wrong. That's wrong on so many levels. These people should get the help they need while they're climbing out of it, not be cut off of it as soon as they don't meet the basic income requirements anymore. Because that's why so many people that I know and knew when I was a supervisor at a call center and mid-level management in other call centers after my company exploded. That's why I watched so many people when I offered them promotions and raises. But I think I'm going to have to look for another job if you don't let me stay where I am. Because yes, you're about to give me another $2 an hour, but I make $5 an hour in food stamps per month on top of what you're already paying me now. And that $2 per month is going to take $3 of my food stamp budget away because I won't get them anymore. But again, that's part of what the Democrats want. They want you on these programs. They want you using food stamps. They want you using housing assistance. They want you using every program that they can possibly get you on, because then they have you under thumb. And if you don't believe me, just look at what happened during COVID. They were firing people for refusing to get a shot. Now, we can argue about vaccinations all day long. I still think there's way too many that are being given way too early. And I think that is part of the problem, whether anybody wants to admit it or not. I think this is a conglomeration of events that have created a perfect storm that we don't understand enough about what's going on, because you don't get valid information anymore with studies. Whoever's funding the study gets the information they're looking for, or the funding goes away. It's just the way the world works anymore. It started changing before this, but what made it even worse was when they started making the truth and up-jumped opinion by putting the word "my" in front of it. Because that started changing everything. Because truth was a relative term. Truth depended on your point of view. Truth depended on your perspective. And I'm always reminded of that line from I think it was Star Wars Episode 4. It may have even, no, I guess it was Empire Strikes Back, because Luke didn't find out who his daddy was until Empire Strikes Back, at least officially. And, during one of the voiceovers, the guy that plays Obi-Wan was like, well, what I told you was true from a certain point of view. When truth relies on point of view, it's not the truth anymore. And the truth of this is the Democrats are holding the government hostage to get $1.4, $1.5 trillion. Why quibble over 1/10 of a percentage point when you're talking about billions of dollars? But the funny thing is, I saw a post from Thomas Massey, and lately I have not agreed with him on much. But he's pretty well spot on this one. Democrats holding the government hostage for more money. Republicans trying to keep spending at levels it was at before. Me simply asking for a 1% cut. Now, I'm paraphrasing it, but that was basically the post, and I agree with him. I think we do need to start finding ways to cut, and I am very disappointed in the Trump administration, because if it were me, I would have told everybody 3 weeks before the shutdown, if you do this, looking at you, Democrats, if you do this, at 12:01 a.m. on this day, the government is going to shut down. On 12:03 this day, Doge and anybody else that I can send in with red pens are going to be cutting everything that they can find. Now, I get it. He tried to do it to a point, and then the judges have been stopping him, etc. We'll see how all of that pans out. But at the same time, I'm just sitting here going, that would have been what I would have expected from Trump 1.0. Trump 1.0 was a bit of a bull in the china shop, and it's one of the reasons why I couldn't vote for him the first time. I honestly, I've said this before, I think he was supposed to take it on the chin. And I think at some point he either figured out they could actually win this thing, or when he started getting briefings once he became the nominee, he saw some hints of some of these things that have been going on to try to derail his campaign, and he realized, if I don't win this, we're going to be lined up against a wall and shot. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, imagine how much differently the Russian narrative would have played out if Hillary Clinton was in charge of the White House. They would have tried them for treason and lined them up against the wall and shot them, and nobody would have voted for Republicans for at least 100, 150 years. That was the plan. This was LBJ version 2.0. That's what this was. if she had won, and she really thought she was going to, you know she thought she was going to, look at the post she put out to herself on her birthday. She thought the fix was in. And I would like to remind you, for anybody who's scratching your head right now and isn't willing to connect these dots, it was Bill Clinton that called Donald Trump to ask him to run against his wife. Now, that means old Billy Boy really, really, really doesn't like Hillary, or they thought that they could win, or my assumption was they really were convinced that he was going to take it on the chin. But that didn't happen, which has caused the entire New World Order crowd to flip out. They have lost their minds to the point where their climate change ideas are losing traction around the world. You've got Japan just elected a conservative prime minister for the first time, and I can't remember when, but I haven't actually looked it up. But it's first female prime minister. And Trump and her were partying yesterday, and she's all like, "Oh, I love me some Donald Trump." Like, awesome. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. These people that keep wanting to tell you that he's the worst person to possibly be in the job have been telling you from the moment he was going to be sworn in that he was going to destroy everything. And since they haven't been able to manifest that, now they're trying to create it on their own. Because we are just a couple of days away from American families starting to go hungry. And the Democrats don't care because it's their leverage point. They've got unions that have started to turn away from the Democratic Party and turn towards the Republican Party. I'll be honest, I don't know how I feel about that. Because the unions are large, freaking ginormous lobbyist groups, and that means the Republicans are probably going to start doing whatever they can to hang on to that constituency block. And again, I would like to remind you that as of right now, the Republican Party is basically the Democratic Party of the 90s. The things that Bill Clinton said during his campaign speeches and his State of the Union speeches and his national addresses in the 90s sound an awful lot like what MAGA is saying today. So the Overton window has moved for both parties. The difference is the Overton window for the right has moved, I want to say a lot, because it has. But the Overton window for the left took off running like a sprinter. Which is why, we talked about this a little bit on Manorama last night, why it is that according to The Hill, Gen Z, especially Gen Z males, are leaving the Democratic Party in droves. Now, part of that is because I do believe at least a small percentage of them are waking up to the fact that party has absolutely no compass, that its values change depending on who is leading the party, or in this case, not leading the party at all. But also it's because the pendulum is starting to swing back the other way. It was socially cool to be liberal. It's not anymore. You either have to be a communist or a conservative. There's no middle ground anymore. If you're going to stay in the Democratic Party, you have to be a communist. And for everybody who doesn't want to do that, they keep finding themselves with the Overton window having left them behind going, I don't really know where I'm going to go. And then they start looking into things like being an independent, or maybe for some folks, Libertarian Party or whatever. And then eventually they make their way over here and they're like, you guys aren't the assholes we were told you were. Tried to tell you. We really did. I promise we did. But look, that's just hit number one on this whole shutdown thing. We're still, what have they voted now? 12 times to keep the government closed at last count that I could find? They being the Democrats. But remember this one? Because this was the one that started all of it. This was the first Democrat that really said the quiet part out loud. Hang on, it's going to make me do this again.
Terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to.
My bad. I forgot I was having the broadcast from X last night for a pickup that we do, and it means that I had to have the site muted. So here we go.
Shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leverage times we have. Shutdowns are terrible. And of course.
Now, what I like is that, we showed, I think it was Senator Whitehouse a moment ago, and then this chick, and they basically said the exact same things. This is one of the only leverage point times that we have. Why do you need leverage? To do what? To try to snowball the American people again and talk about the fact that, that the Affordable Care Act is actually affordable. You ever notice that when Democrats pass something, it's usually the opposite of whatever they say it's going to be? Now, I do have a bit of good news for those of you in Oklahoma, and we're going to talk about that right now. This is a short clip from our friends over at KOCO Channel 5 News, and if you're an OG&E customer, you might be seeing a rate drop soon, but let's watch this.
The first matter we have before you, Your Honor, is Wellington Delano Dickens III.
Actually, I guess I take that back. That is not the video that I thought it was. What happened here? What did y'all do? Anyway, so there is a bit of an excerpt from it, though. So OG&E officials have announced that the electric company is lowering bills for some customers. They sent a letter to customers Tuesday saying there has been a change in the fuel factor charge, meaning the bill for the average residential customer in Oklahoma will be about $6.75 lower per month starting November 1st. Now that's not a huge cut, but in the land of increase, any cut is usually a good idea. OG&E said in the letter that this represents a 4.8% reduction in the average residential customer's monthly bill. People who see the lower price will have a reduced bill in November or December, depending on the billing cycle. So if you're an OG&E customer and you've gotten that letter, congratulations, you're going to get to keep at least enough to maybe hit a Starbucks in your pocket for at least a couple of months. But this is exactly what I'm talking about, though. These are the things that the Democrats don't want us talking about, because gas prices are lower almost everywhere unless high gas prices are a choice like they are in California. We'll be talking about that at the top of the hour because we've got a story about that too. And it's time to start talking about that too. The reason you have so many blue states where gas is unaffordable is because they're doing that on purpose. All right, so let's take one more hit regarding the shutdown because we've got looks like a Senator Kennedy clip because, why not? It's Senator Kennedy. 1 second. Apparently, I'm getting too many tabs open. My internet's starting to get cranky. All right, so here we go. Oh, I guess I was already on the screen. I thought I changed off of it. My bad for watching me change screens midstream.
Yes, and I listened to your monologue, Sean, with all of these different characters. I thought to myself, even duct tape can't fix stupid. I don't know Miss Wallace. I've watched her a little bit. I remember when she worked for President Bush. I suppose she's not as bad as some members of the liberal media, but that's faint praise. That's like it's like being the smartest person on The View. I'm going to give Ms. Wallace the benefit of the doubt and assume that she said what she said right after her morning beer. The Democrats have accused President Trump of everything except abandoning his children to wolves. They daily call him a racist and a Nazi. The Democrats are angry. They're angry for two reasons. They're angry because President Trump won the election. The American people spoke. My Democratic colleagues need to just drink a big old glass of get over it and let's move on. They're mad, number two, they're mad that the American people are mad about the shutdown. It was so needless. I voted 13 times to open government back up. The Democrats have voted 13 times to keep it shut down. They don't want to pay food stamps. They don't want to pay the military. they want to use this as leverage to gain more money to spend. Senator Schumer, my colleague, greedily wanted to become the face of the shutdown. I was looking at a poll today of what the American people think of Senator Schumer. It was an Economist YouGov poll, which is very left of center. The American people, in the American people's opinion, Senator Schumer is he's a wet match in a dark cave. He polls right up there with clubbing baby seals. He's got a 30% approval rating, a 60% disapproval rating, and 10% of folks polled just didn't want to pause their video games to answer. It's not working. The American people may not read Aristotle every day, but they get it. This is not a policy shutdown.
And we have a BZ sighting in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, BZ. Really enjoyed your show last night. Glad to see you this morning. Anyway, so we're coming up to the top of the hour break, and as much as I keep wanting to try to move on from the shutdown, there's just too much to talk about regarding the shutdown because there's even more news. So it looks like the Democratic front is starting to break and crack, and we've been showing you a couple of different points where they've been caught saying the quiet part out loud. Now you've got John Fetterman, which we'll be getting into after the break, who is basically coming out and eviscerating his own party regarding the shutdown. And then let's not forget, later in hour two, we will be talking about why in some states, mainly California, spell it with a K, just to add some emphasis, high gas prices are a choice. But we'll be talking about all of that as soon as we come back from the break right here live on KLRNradio.com. But we're going to go ahead and take that break now so I can get things queued up for hour two. Want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with us today. I know this week's been weird because I had internet issues, so I'm like 2 shows down so far. Actually, 3 because I didn't do Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. So I got some makeup work to do for you guys. But I love you and thank you for being here. And we'll see you back in a few minutes. So hang out.
The lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of stand tall when they take a kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never chain the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll They keep saying we must want civil war. But tell me, friend, what are we fighting for? We just want to be left alone, to chase our dreams and build our homes. Front porch lights fading in the storm, trying to hold on to what was warm. But we ain't changed, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we just won't lie. They moved the lines, kept pushing the frame, redefining truth and changing names. They say progress like it's a holy word. Nobody's listening, nobody's heard. We stayed steady while they rewrote the song. Now they call us out for holding on. Well, we ain't changed, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we just won't lie. Every time you push, something breaks. Every room you bend, another heart aches. But there's still faith under all that noise. Still fire burning in a million quiet boys. We ain't changed, no, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we won't die inside.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody?
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
To the heart of this land. It's a red
And welcome back into the Chat Lives Matter Day edition of the Rick Robinson Show. Don't forget, come back tonight. We should have full boat programming, so we're going to start with Kingdom and Country, 7 p.m. Eastern, the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show, 8 p.m. Eastern. Behind Enemy Lines, 9 p.m. Eastern, and that show title may be more prescient in a few days, because it may actually become the People's Republic of New York. Then after that, we have the Rick and Morty Show, followed by our first trip over to SHR Media Land with our good friend Sean Lewis, who I semi-lovingly call the Beantown Bastage. And after that, we have BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, who happens to be hanging out in my chat right now. So good morning, sir. And BZ asked a question during the break that I was only able to answer in the chat because I didn't want to cut in. So his question was, what about the Dems? Do you think maybe they'll cave before Saturday? I don't think so. I think they may cave shortly after Saturday, and I don't know what kind of impact that's going to be, because I know here in Oklahoma everybody gets their food stamps like at weird times. Like there's people I know that don't get their food stamps till the 10th. So I don't know how that's going to shake loose if it does wind up being something they eventually cave on, but it's still past the 1st, because I think they'll hold out till at least past the 1st. Because one, they're not really going to do anything on a Saturday. I mean, it's the government. Come on. And two, if they were going to do something about it, they would have done it already. And all they're doing is a bunch of, I guess, Democratic attorney generals are trying to sue the Trump administration to release emergency food stamp funds, which we don't actually apparently have because nothing's been appropriated or apportioned yet. So they've painted themselves into a weird corner. I've never seen them take such a calculated risk and bungle it as badly as they have. This is not the Democratic Party that I grew up with. The Democratic Party that I grew up with was smart. They ran circles around the Republicans all the time. And I don't know what changed, but at some point something did. And I think, again, it's about that whole Overton window thing. We touched on this a little bit during hour one, but according to the Hill, leaving the Democratic Party in droves, and we talked about this a bit on Manorama last night with VC and myself and the Amish one and random Canadian guy that we now basically call Texas Spider-Man because he spent some time in his butt down here permanently. But yeah, so according to the Hill, there are men that are leaving the Republican Party, and it doesn't look like they have any intention on ever coming back. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, if I'm being 1,000% honest with you, because I still think about 85% of the ones that are turning away is because the social contagion of, being woke and being Democrat and being binary and all these things have gone away. So I think it is the social contagion is wearing off, so people are starting to snap out of it. So but yeah, so according to the Hill, that is happening. And again, according to their information, they don't think men are going to be coming back anytime soon, which at this point actually and honestly makes the Democratic Party the awful party. The home of the American white female liberal, or the affluent white female liberal, otherwise known as the awful, because they are in fact awful. These people are, if we had a state we could give over to Amazonians in this country, it would probably be better that we just did that and let them go wipe themselves off the map, because that's pretty much what the affluent female white liberal is turned into, is the stereotypical Amazonian. I don't need a man. I don't need you for anything. I got a turkey baster and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sorry. I know I'm being a little crass, but it's true. The funny thing is, BZ actually talked about this at length last night about how the female voters destroying the country. And it came up as kind of an ancillary thing last night because we were talking about the rise of Islam in Great Britain and how if Sharia law becomes a thing, women won't be allowed to vote anymore. And one of the panelists was like, well, wouldn't that be a good thing? Because wouldn't that mean we would have more conservative ideals? I'm like, there are different flavors of conservatism. The conservative ideas for Islam are completely different than the conservative ideals of the West. The thing the Democrats have been able to do up till now is conflate the two. So they assume that because most conservatives are people of faith, that they want women barefoot, pregnant, in the kitchen, popping out babies every other 5 minutes. That's not true. We just want women to be able to have the choice. If you want to be able to stay home and raise your children, which is a preferred outcome in my opinion, because you don't want the state raising your children. But in order to do that, we have to have a strong dollar. We have to have an economy that's strong. We have to have an economy that allows for one person to work and the other person to stay home. We used to have that. We don't anymore. And it started being taken away for a very specific reason. So make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, it is the female voter that is slowly turning on all of us and basically making us, or trying to make us, the country of I don't know what. But it's just as much the government's fault, because once they figured out how to get power, they've done everything they can to hang on to it. And it's been a multi-pronged approach that's been going on for over 100 years. First, they started figuring out, they being the Rockefellers and folks like that, started figuring out how to indoctrinate people, which once they figured out how to do that, the government was like, oh, maybe we should have control of that then, since that seems to work so well. Yeah, so we went from having people that were learning Latin in 8th grade to people that can't read in 8th grade, are reading at a 3rd grade level in 8th grade and just keep getting passed along and along and along and along. And, part of it, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. Amish actually talked about some of how his high school career went, and mine was kind of the same. I hated doing homework. But back then, things had just really started being weighted, so I had to start doing my homework, because by the time I was in high school, it was early 90s. And so by then, they'd figured out that kids like me that aced test but didn't do homework, and it was throwing off the curve for everybody. I mean, I was able to have a C average without trying, and I didn't care enough to worry about it one way or the other. I kind of wish I could go back and fix that now, because if I had known, none of that stuff seems important when you're there. And then you look at your life afterwards and be like, dude, if I had applied myself, good Lord. Because it was easy. I could pass almost every single test. The one thing that wrapped my brain around a pole was geometry. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because I do have some spatial orientation issues, but geometry wasn't math to me. Now, the first semester I aced it, dude. It was the theory. It was learning the postulates and all those things. I aced that. Figuring out how to put that stuff into practice wrapped my brain around a pole faster than if I was drinking a 40 with 2 hands trying to drive a car. It was just insane. I couldn't grasp it. I still don't really get it. I have gone back and used different tools and everything to try to teach myself that stuff over the years, and I'm able to make some sense of it now, but it was something that I couldn't wrap my head around. But that's another thing, and the reason I'm talking about all this is because we now know that different people learn different ways and learn in different styles. Some people are more tactilely based on learning. Other folks learn best by reading. Other folks, kind of a combination of the two. But the thing about it is, even though we know these things, we don't use them. We have all of these corporations that make people take these tests to figure out how best they learn and everything else, but we don't use them. We don't give as far as I know, at least we weren't when I was in school, and I don't think they did when my kids were in school either. We don't give kids tests on how they learn. We give tests on kids on their aptitudes to figure out what subjects they might need help with versus the ones that they already grasp or whatever the case may be. But we don't use their learning style to their benefit, and we should. Because I think that was one of my biggest problems in school. There were times that I was bored because I could pick up a textbook, read through whatever we were going over in about 5 minutes, and then had really nothing else to do. I mean, again, I'm not trying to sound like some sort of pretentious ass here because I hate people that do that, but I was reading at a senior college level in 6th grade. It was actually astounding to a lot of my teachers because they're like, and not only that, but I was retaining 99% of whatever I read for longer than a couple of hours. Now, again, I've had people that have accused me of having an eidetic memory. I do not have that. I know that because I do still have to go back and brush up on things from time to time. But I do or did have a really good memory. The older I get, the more it seems like the hard drive is full, and I keep thinking I might need to defrag it a bit. But why are we all over the place talking about this stuff today? It's this. The government is not your friend. And if you didn't have any doubts, if you had any doubts about the government not being your friend, let's talk about let's put something under a microscope for a second. This is from our friends over at Red State. This was a guest editorial, but it was funny because this actually was put out after a friend of mine over at SHR Media actually put out a very similar article. So I have a feeling some of this might have been snagged, which I see happen all the time. This is from Mike Garcia. AAA reports that California drivers are paying an average of $4.66 per gallon this week, more than $1.50 above the current national average. The main reason? State policy. California's gasoline excise tax alone accounts for much of that difference, making fuel far more expensive west of the Colorado River. As of July 1st, 2025, Sacramento levies 61.2 cents per gallon in state excise tax, an automatic inflation index charge that rose again this summer and will continue to climb every July unless lawmakers intervene. Put simply, before a gas station earns a single cent, the state takes more than 60. That's not normal. Next door in Arizona, the state excise tax is 18 cents per gallon. The 43-cent gap explains why families often top off in Lake Havasu or Yuma before crossing into California. All drivers pay the federal tax of 18.4 cents per gallon, but California's steep premium is homegrown. The real issue isn't just how high the tax is, it's how it's designed to keep rising automatically. Under current law, the excise rate adjusts each July based on inflation. That's why it rose from 59.6 cents to 61.2 cents just this last year alone. The term indexation may sound technical, but the result is simple. Without a deliberate vote from the legislature, California pays more, and Californians pay more every year for a nurse or delivery worker commuting from the Antelope Valley to downtown Los Angeles. Those pennies add up really, really quickly. Economists have long warned that per-gallon taxes on essentials are regressive, hitting working families hardest. They don't care. This is the point. This is the reason why I wanted to read this part of it to you. I'm not going to read the whole article because it's long. I'm going to put it out on my X feed here in a minute for anybody who wants to check it out later. But they don't care. This is the point we've been trying to make for you for so long. And I'm not saying that up until recently, the Republican Party's done a good job of caring either, but there are people within the Republican Party who do care. And I'm not saying there aren't Democrats inside the Democratic Party that don't care either, because we've got Fetterman that we'll be talking about in a minute, who has been coming out staunchly opposing the government shutdown. I don't like Fetterman. I don't agree with him about 80% of the time. But there are things that I'm looking at him and I'm going, why can't more people in your party be like you? If more people in your party could be like you, we could get back to the whole premise I launched when I started doing this kind of crap with a show that eventually, when we rebranded and became more serious, was called Finding Common Ground. It was myself and a liberal friend, and I do mean classical liberal friend in that sense of the word, not crazy liberal. Although I've noticed lately there seems to be less and less daylight between the two, but I didn't say that part out loud. But we would talk about things. And one of the things that I always put out on social media back when I was an angry, pissed off penguin in a Gadsden t-shirt wearing a leather football helmet, some of you know what I'm talking about because I didn't start my Twitter life as a serious thing. It was kind of a caricature. I was Wobbles the pissed off penguin whenever I started. But then we got serious about it and started using actual names and stuff. But the thing about all of that is there used to be, and I used to say this all the time, there were 7 or 8 hot button issues that if we could just put those aside for 5 minutes, we would realize that about 60% of the country can find common ground on pretty much everything else and actually get things done. The problem is the Democrats wanted you focused on those 6 or 7 hot button issues. They want you angry. They want you upset. They want you pissed off. But now the same people that keep saying, well, the Republicans only care about children until they're out of the womb are about to start letting kids starve. And Fetterman's having none of it. He's come out over and over and over again saying this is stupid and I will always put country above party. I wish more people would do that. If more people would do that, we wouldn't even be having this discussion right now, because they would have opened the government, they would have used the CR, and then they could have fought tooth and nail for whatever subsidies they felt like the Obamacare Act still needed. But the Affordable Care Act is anything but affordable. And it's so frustrating to me because we keep seeing this and we keep seeing the proof of it, But if we just pass these subsidies, everybody's going to be fine. No, they won't. Because eventually we're going to run out of money. This is the point that I've been trying to make for so long that nobody wants to listen to. We're going to run out of money. Hell, we've technically already ran out of money. If it wasn't for the tariffs that Donald Trump keeps levying everywhere, we would be completely broke right now. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he starts unlocking the tariff money to get things funded so the Democrats don't have any leverage to work with anymore. And that would have been my move. I'm going to be honest. If I were the president, I'd be like, okay, look, so I know we don't have a budget set yet because we don't have any way to appropriate tax dollars yet, but let's do this. Let's take some of this tariff revenue and go ahead and fund the food stamps. Get it passed. Get it done. I don't care how you do it. Get it done. Because then if they say no, you've got them over a barrel yet again, because the Democrats, the same people that keep telling you that the children are what matter to them, the future matters to them, are ready to let them starve. And it's like BZ asked me earlier, do you think they'll cave before Saturday? No, I would be really surprised if they do. But if they do, Brad and I will probably be talking about it on Friday. For those of you who don't know, we are making a bit of a lineup change. It's not much of one. So we're still going to do the regular 2-hour format for the Rick Robinson Show. But since the weekend news roundup has kind of become its own thing, we're going to slide it later so we can start having more contributors than just Brad. I think Amy Curtis may actually be joining us this week, but we're moving that one to 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. So for those of you on the left coast that really only like to tune in for that hour, you get to sleep in a little more. I don't hate you people that live in the past. You just confuse me. I mean, I used to live in the past, and I will admit I actually used to like that when we first moved, and I realized that it was like 8 o'clock where I was, and all my friends back home were already in bed because it was like 10 o'clock. I'm like, ha! And then I realized that I was getting up at their 4 o'clock in the morning. So, no, I guess not really, because, yeah. So, yeah, and I was getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning my time, at 8 o'clock their time. So it was kind of a win-win for me, because for a few months, I felt like I was getting to... I wasn't actually staying up later, but it kind of felt that way. And then I was still getting to sleep in because it was earlier. It was earlier here than it was here. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. All right, so let's see what other trouble we can get into. I know I've talked about the Fetterman stuff. We may actually come back with a clip from that in a moment, as soon as I can find it again. But anytime I have a chance to trash Sideshow Bob, especially since we're coming up against a break, I'm definitely going to do it. It's just how that works. I'm sorry, but it's just how it works. So there was apparently a KJP interview with the New Yorker, and it doesn't look like it went well. Let's see. I thought there might have been a clip, but it looks like it's just some excerpts. Let me find out. This may be a clip. Oh, nope, it is not. However, for those of you who don't know, she has been making some rounds trying to push her little book, and it hasn't exactly been going well for her. As a matter of fact, she's starting to be laughed at by her own party. So former White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, I have a couple of different nicknames for her. First was Corinne Jean-Air. The other one, of course, when she changed her hair, became Sideshow Bob, because good Lord, it's freaking Sideshow Bob's haircut. Has been interviewed for her book, Independent, A Look Inside a Broken White House Outside the Party Lines. It has not been going well for her, however. During the interview, she seemed focused on identity politics. But then her interview with the New Yorker's Isaac Schoetner hit a new level of insanity. He had trouble just understanding what she was trying to say, and her response would then make things worse. The following paragraph may be one of the most quietly hilarious paragraphs I've ever read. It's about why she left the Democratic Party because of how they maneuvered to get Joe Biden out of the race. So, hang on. Political independent Jean-Pierre, who served for more than 2 years in her role, which consisted of defending the administration to the press and explaining its policies, also blames the Democratic Party because it couldn't articulate the achievements of Biden-Harris administration well enough. and continues from there. So indeed, Jean-Pierre is so outraged by the often unnamed Democratic establishmentarians who maneuvered to push Biden to step aside as the presidential nominee during the summer of 2024 in the wake of his disastrous debate performance against Donald Trump, that she has decided to leave the Democratic Party altogether and become a political independent. Jean-Pierre, who served for more than 2 years in her role, which consisted of defending the administration, the press, and explaining its policies, also blames the Democratic Party because it couldn't articulate the achievements of the Biden-Harris administration well enough. So I don't know about you guys, but when I read a paragraph like that, I tend to laugh a lot. Lucky for you, I'd already read it, or I'd probably be laughing my ass off right now. She's mad that they couldn't articulate the Biden administration's achievements well enough. Wait, whose job was it to do that for the administration? And that's my question. Wasn't that her job? And what achievements exactly did they unlock during the Biden administration? Because I didn't see very many. So he asked her why she was upset about replacing Biden if she agreed that President Donald Trump was a danger. Her answer was bizarre, that it was about how they dealt with vulnerable people. And here's a quote: because they believe that he needed to step aside, there's more to this than just that period of time. This is very layered, right? There's a period of time that I questioned what was happening and how do we treat our own, how do we treat people who are decent people. And then also you have to think about how I'm thinking about this as a black woman who was part of the alphabet soup mafia, my words, not hers, and living in this time where I also don't think Democrats right now, Democrat leadership is protecting vulnerable people in the way that it should. So question, what does your being black and gay have to do with the price of bananas in Brazil? Because I got nothing. What does that have anything to do with whether or not they should replace Biden and why they should or shouldn't replace him? I don't understand this. And again, this is one of the points that I've been trying to make. Most of the Democratic leadership has I don't even know what you would call it. Just, it's almost like they have aphasia. They say words, but none of them make sense. And sometimes they're in the wrong order, and sometimes you can't understand them. And sometimes you're like, what the hell did she just say? I mean, this goes from Biden to Harris to KJP. And I think it was on purpose. I think they put people around him that sounded even stupider than he did until it just got so bad that he couldn't put a sentence together and had to be led around by the elbow and by the shoulder and by the wrist, because it helped make him seem more cogent, because these people didn't know what the hell they were talking about. It was almost like they did it on purpose. All right. We are past the point of a break, and I do need to take one because I'm out of coffee. So we're going to take that now. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with us on this fine fall Wednesday morning, because it is still morning where I am. I know for BZ it's even earlier morning, but it's because he lives in the past, and that's not my fault. All right. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Talk for the people, talk that's real, the Vincent Show, where we say what we feel. Shut the lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. The price of stand and go home. They can lie to promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, through no town regrets, fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show where the truth.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Let's roll that beautiful beam water footage, shall we? Sorry, it has to be done. All right, so welcome back into the program. We're in the final segment of the Chat Lives Matter Day edition. Don't forget, though, we do still have a lot more programming for you tonight, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern and ending with my good friend BZ, who put on a hell of a show last night. So if you missed it last night, you're going to get to catch it tonight. So come back. Come back. It'll be worth your time. Anyway, so we're back. We're live. And I think BZ's still in there. I saw he just sent me a link, so I think it might have actually been the story I was looking for. So I'm trying to figure that out. Hang on. Looking for something. Oh, wait, no. It's a New York Post article that actually supplements the very thing we were just talking about. So, I mean, granted, it's the Post, but still, it's New York. So this headline should surprise probably pretty much anybody. Their headline for it was ex-Biden press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre's word salad answers baffle New Yorker reporter during train wreck. Wow, apparently I took too quick of a guzzle of beautiful bean water because now I have the hiccups, which I hate when that happens. Usually if I keep talking long enough, eventually they'll go away. So we'll see whether, because it's easier than me trying to hold my breath. For some reason I can talk breath. Anybody else have that problem? All right, so all those things they keep saying to you that are impossible, you know, like illegals receiving healthcare benefits, when that they really do either through states or by going to emergency to be truthful. What if I told you that there's even fraudulent vote? This one might surprise you. So we're going to go into this one in a bit of a detail. This is from Jennifer. So as my colleague, and I'm going to read from the article, an awful lot of voter fraud being uncovered. Unfortunately, right now it's actually being a state. It's verifiable proof only where illegal aliens and duplicate registration on voter rolls, but votes were cast in prior elections under those individual names. So much claim the administration. Republican voiced concern